We begin and conclude today chapter 28. Chapter 28 in one word, tefillah. It's about prayer. We spoke in the previous chapter that when negative thoughts of a loved one that you shouldn't have, whatever that means, a discussion for another time, they come into our heads. We have a mitzvah to push them away. We're not engaged in a mitzvah because we're engaged in our own, worldly affairs. So then we have an opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah, to push it away. But what happens if you're already doing a mitzvah, like praying, or like studying we're doing right now, and lustful images come into your mind, or just extraneous thoughts that have nothing to do with what we're learning, or the prayer that a person is involved in. So you're already doing a mitzvah, and there's something that's trying to prevent you from the full engagement in that mitzvah. Again, the particular mitzvah is in learning, like we're doing now, or even more particular is prayer with intent. So you should pay no attention. Avert your mind from it immediately. The Rabbi says that you shouldn't engage in what's called sublimation of the midos, which is something that is only in the realm of the righteous. The righteous can take a feeling that they have no feeling towards, but an extraneous thought that comes to them from someone else's feelings, negative feelings, that they had a thought, and they can sublimate it and bring it to a heavenly place and kind of bring a tikkun, a fixing to that extraneous negative thought. Now for them it's not their negative thought, because negative thought is a result of an emotion. You have a negative emotion that results in thinking negatively, again, towards a loved one, right? So when you have that feeling and you have that thought, you know that it's coming from a bad place. But the righteous can have an extraneous thought, but without the feeling, because it's not theirs. Because the people that they're connected to, they can connect to their thoughts can be connected through them, that they can actually sublimate it. Now, we might think, oh, I have this negative thought, so let me sublimate it to this, to the divine above. Right? And now, for example, let's say it's anger. And you're now going to sublimate it to Gvura above, where Gvura above, so now you transform it into something holy. You can't do that. Only the righteous can do it. Why can't we do it? Because we're connected to the feeling. So we're kind of rooted down here in the negativity. And therefore we can't sublimate it up there. The righteous have that power. They could do that. Okay. So now, nevertheless, so a person might feel downhearted or dejected or feeling really lousy about themselves. They're in the middle of prayers and extraneous thoughts are coming to them. So he said, no, you shouldn't be. That's wrong. You're in prayers. You should be joyous. You're learning Tanya right now. Negative thoughts, extraneous thoughts are coming? No. You should be joyous. You're doing a mitzvah. On the contrary, says the Alter Rebbe, you should draw fresh strength and intensify your determination with all your power to pray with concentration, with even greater joy and gladness, in realization that the foreign thoughts that are occurring to you are coming from a negative place. And it's raging a war, that negative place of the klipa, the left ventricle of the heart of klipa, and it's raging a war. Waging a war against who? Well, my divine soul. As is known, the way of combatants, that each one seeks to destroy the other. Similarly, wrestlers who want to topple one the other. So what happens in a wrestling match when one gains an upper hand over their opponent? So the opponent now tries to exert as much strength to get back into the battle. That's why sometimes you see that someone's toppled over, and now that brings greater exertion of the person who's been toppled over to get back in and to topple back the opponent. Therefore, the battle that we have, for example, in time of prayer, or even now, between the divine soul and the animal soul, when the divine soul exerts itself and musters all that strength in prayer, which thereby weakens its opponent, the animal soul. It weakens it, or maybe even vanquishes it in the moment. So what happens? The animal soul, right, which is rooted in Kalipa, it too gathers extra strength now to counter and to confuse and topple the divine soul. How? By bringing even a more, stronger foreign thought, extraneous thought. So this now refutes the common notion that many people have that if foreign thoughts enter my mind during prayer, or now, right? Prayer is what the Alter Rebbe is using as the most common ground of understanding. So you're praying, and foreign thoughts enter. So people make a mistake and they say, well, obviously my prayers are worthless because if I properly prayed, I wouldn't have foreign thoughts arise into my mind. Well, that would be correct if you only had one soul. And the same soul that prays is also the one that ponders foreign thoughts. But the fact is you don't have one soul, you have two souls. And each soul is waging a battle against the other to occupy the person's mind in time of prayer, or now, in time of learning. And each one each soul wishes to rule and pervade the mind exclusively. So, an example gives the Alter Rebbe that if you were standing in prayers and a wicked, uncircumcised heathen comes to chat you up, to kind of confuse you in your prayers, someone who's, again, a heathen means they're a totally non-believer, right? And he's giving this by way of a metaphor. I mean, a heathen could be maybe someone who's seeking to find the truth. But that's not the metaphor or the example here. That this, wicked individual just doesn't like the sight of someone praying. So starts a friendly conversation, but with only the intent to try to, confuse you, right? What do? What's the best advice? You shouldn't answer them for positive or for negative. Rather act as if you are deaf to what they are saying and just focus in on your prayers. As King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you become like that fool. And furthermore, when you would wrestle with a filthy person, you're bound to become yourself filthy. So don't wrestle with that person. Instead, pretend not to know, not to hear the foreign thoughts that come into your head. You have foreign thoughts come into your head? Don't wrestle with it. Don't answer it. Dismiss it. Even more so, strengthen yourself with even more power of concentration. Now, if you're finding it difficult to dismiss because maybe that extraneous thought is something that's really troubling you in your heart, and you're really having a challenge, humble yourself before God and supplicate and ask for divine compassion. God, please have compassion on me. I'm not able to push away those extraneous thoughts. They're just, the turbulent waters are too troubling, and I'm having a big challenge. And do it even, God, for your sake, because after all, my divine soul is a part of you.